It has been a busy week in the crypto world, from GameStop confirming its plans to get into crypto to President Trump's SEC pick, Paul Atkins, promising a new approach to digital tokens. And joining us now to break it all down is Ben McMillan, IDX Advisors Chief Investment Officer. Ben, great to see you as always.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start out with Mr. Paul Atkins, Trump's man to run the SEC, because he's before the Senate and he pledges, Ben, rational crypto regulations. As a guy who's working in the industry, what would you want to see from Atkins, and what would you expect to see?
I mean, the word rational is an important one because, frankly, when you look at the previous SEC administration, it was one that even other regulatory agencies accused of being inconsistent with their application to crypto agencies, over heavy-handed, and it stifled a lot of innovation in the space. I mean, Coinbase was a perfect example. They went online and said, here the SEC, under Gensler, approved our IPO, but then is also suing us. How can you have one or the other? And so to just move into a rational approach, a common sense approach, is very favorable, I think, for the space in general, because there's a lot of pent-up innovation there. And I think just the language around that is going to really offer us a catalyst to see higher prices, not just for Bitcoin, but a broader adoption of the ecosystem.
So the lighter touch, which is what we would expect to see, that has these kind of tailwinds and benefits for innovation, for example.
Absolutely, because a lot of people, and we were talking to them, were just kind of rolling back projects because they were worried about the heavy-handed approach of an SEC. And so again, there's a lot of innovation out there. There's a lot of exciting things out there on the crypto landscape. And so having an SEC that's more conducive and more cooperative and going to allow that innovation is going to be great for the space.
Generally, what do you think the team Trump has put together here? Do you like this team? I got Atkins, I got, of course, David Sachs, the crypto czar. What do you think?
I think it's great because they're guys with private sector Wall Street experience. So again, they're coming in, and I forget who it was, but one of them said, the SEC's job is to really prevent outright fraud. So we're going to go back to, guys that are doing things like pump and dumps, stealing money from widows and dentists, for lack of a better term, as opposed to just kind of, inconsistently going after these, big headlines. And so again, getting back to like a bricks and mortar type approach, I think is going to be really good for the crypto space.
Let me ask you about another storyline in your world. GameStop, which got nailed today, they announced these plans to sell $1.3 billion in convertible bonds to fund Bitcoin purchases. What did you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think we'll see more of that in general. Corporations putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. There was a lot of talk about that years ago. Actually, Tesla was one that did it, and people thought that was going to usher in. I think now there's more of a normalization of that, and we're hearing more about that. And frankly, BlackRock starting to put Bitcoin in their model portfolios, I think, has been a big catalyst, kind of normalizing that idea. Now, the flip side, of course, it is, GameStop is, kind of famously known as that meme stock. To what degree was this done for headline grabs and things like that? I think that's why the price is responding the way it is. But generally, that type of movement, I think, is favorable, and I think we'll see it with countries too. I think we'll start to see, similar to El Salvador, more countries using Bitcoin as a kind of easy turnkey way to shore up their own central banks. So again, that's another positive catalyst.
Let me get a broader question for you. Looking at Bitcoin, we're still roughly been 20% below that record in January. What are the catalysts to get Bitcoin working in the right direction again that you see coming?
So the big one is just getting through these macro headwinds. Bitcoin is trading like a high beta asset. If you look at a chart of Bitcoin relative to NASDAQ, it looks exactly like that, a high beta version of the NASDAQ. And so the same headwinds that are kind of taking risk off the table pretty much indiscriminately over these last couple of weeks, the tariff talks, the uncertainty.
Trump comes out, talks tariffs, everybody goes risk off.
Exactly, exactly. And Bitcoin is the canary in the coal mine there. Now that said, Bitcoin has been stabilizing kind of in the 80 to 90,000 range, which I think is good. We've started seeing on-chain evidence. The nice thing about Bitcoin is you can look on-chain and see what types of wallets are buying. And so you've got the so-called whale wallets starting to accumulate here. We're kind of past the liquidations. So technically, that's a very constructive setup. Once we move into kind of less uncertainty, like I said, those aforementioned catalysts with just a more friendly SEC and all the innovation, I think it's hard to see how Bitcoin isn't setting all-time highs. Maybe not this year, but certainly in the following years.
Ben, always great to see you, especially on set. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.